So maybe, oh, my dog's in the background here. It's warm up here today. It's supposed to be hot. And is it warm there at home? Yeah.
Yep, for sure. And I have a new puppy, everybody, or newish.
Oh.
So I'm doing my best to occupy him, but he usually starts eating my shoe during city council meetings. So hopefully it won't get to that point.
All right. Well, congratulations on the puppy. Well, maybe we can just do brief introductions, just while we're waiting for the last couple folks to come on. I think everybody here pretty much knows who I am. I'm Johanna. I'm the chairwoman of the association, and I've lived in Farm Hill for about 16 years. We've lived in Redwood City for about 25 years, and I have 3 children. My husband retired from the police department, and I serve as a commissioner on the San Mateo County Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commission, and I run the confirmation program at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church. Who'd like to go next?
Why don't you call somebody as they appear on your screen?
Okay, Keith, you're up.
When did I step into that? My name is Keith Blocky. My wife and I have lived in Redwood City for 30 years. Brought our children up here, graduated from Woodside High School, and as they left home, we moved to a smaller place in Emerald Hills and have now lived here in Farm Hill for the last 10 with just the 2 of us. So, involved in a lot of city activities, involved with scouting, involved with sister cities, worked with the library and a number of other community activities.
Thank you, Keith.
Who do you see next?
Well, I see that someone else has a new addition, but he just got up. So I'll ask for Rob and Kat to come back after when he comes back into the screen. Oh, but I see the baby. Thank you so much. This is so nice to see everybody.
Yeah, so
congratulations.
Baby Felix, who's just a little over 3 months old.
Yeah, that's so great. That's so wonderful. Our newest Farm Hill member. Neighbor.
And we've been living here on Altamont Way for 11 years now. So yeah, happy to make it.
Great, thank you so much. Leslie, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Leslie Stafford, and I was born here. So I'm a native of the Bay Area, mostly in Menlo Park, but we've been living in Redwood City for 19 years and in the Farm Hill neighborhood for 8 years, right here on Farm Hill.
Great. You know what, Kat, I apologize. I should have let you go out right after Rob. I'm so sorry.
No worries. Yeah, I mean, Rob said it most. I guess I also serve as the Redwood City representative on the San Mateo County Mosquito and Vector Control District Board, and I'm the VP of that board currently.
That's great. Thank you, Kat. Sorry about that. Donna.
I can remember to do that. Yeah, hi, I'm Donna Schreiber. I'm Johanna's neighbor. I've lived, oh gosh, I can't say I was born in Redwood City, but pretty close thereafter. I have quite a few grandparents, great-grandparents in that area. Born and raised here in the Woodside Plaza area, and then we moved to Edith about 34 years ago. It's been around a while.
Oh, that's great. And they have a beautiful oak tree in the front yard. Okay, Gail, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi everybody. Hope you're staying cool. I've lived on Highland for 25 years. I'm retired now, and I've been recently active in the Sierra Club and Fossil Free Mid-Peninsula.
That's great. Gail often speaks at our council meetings when these issues come up, and so we're always very appreciative of her efforts. Okay, who is next? Jerry, you want to go next? Jerry, you're on mute. Okay. Sharon, do you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Sharon Cohen. I have been with the city of Redwood City for just over 8 months. I'm our housing specialist, and I mostly work on grants from HUD and affordable housing issues. I am covering for Amanda, who has left the city to pursue her next adventure. And I will probably be at this place for a few months until we find a replacement for her. So if you have any questions, I'm going to be your contact for the city. I think you were muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mike, do you want to go next?
Hi, yeah, sure. Michael Elhidi. This is Baby Geo. I am a firefighter in Redwood City, Station 10 on Jefferson and Myrtle. I am also our political action director, and I'm acting president of our union. I am here for you. My job and my sole purpose is to provide service. So whatever you need or any questions, I'm just here just to be your ambassador. So feel free to ask any questions.
Thank you so much. Does Sharon and Steve want to go? Becca?
Let's see, Steve and I have lived on Altamont Way since 1982, 39 years. Steve actually grew up in Redwood City. And we volunteer with 3 organizations: BOK Ranch, which is a therapeutic horseback riding program. Fishing in the City, we teach kids how to fish. And then we do deliveries for St. Vincent de Paul through the St. Matthias Conference.
That's wonderful. I didn't even know about the fishing program. I love that. That's so wonderful. Not all kids get to go out and learn how to fish. See, I've even learned something new tonight about you. And we've been doing meetings for a while. So that's great. Okay, so who hasn't gone? I'm letting people in the waiting room, and I see maybe Judy and maybe Rebecca. Would you like to go? And if not, that's fine.
Hi,
Sure, I'll
Johanna.
go. I'm Rebecca Ratcliffe. I am actually, I've lived in Redwood City 20 years. My husband's been here 30 on Edenbauer. And we have 2 kids who have both graduated from Woodside High, and they will be both departing in the next 2 months. So I'm shifting into being an empty nester, and I am slowly detangling myself from my various things. I just stepped down from the Transportation Advisory Committee. I am still chair of our scout troop. Yeah, so I guess that's about it.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Jerry, are you ready?
I'm finally in, I think.
Good, good.
I was going frantic. I switched to a tablet to try and get some sound. I couldn't get any sound or unmute my audio or anything. So finally in.
Great.
Is this an introduction mode that we're in?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Jerry Brick. I live on Crompton, around the corner from you. And just nice to be here. I'm glad to be able to get some input tonight on some of these subjects.
That's great. Well, I'm very happy to have all of you here. Right now we're at 16 and we have some people coming and going. And like I mentioned earlier, Chris is at the movies with the kids. So I am doing this all by myself. So maybe a little bit slower, but I'll do my very best. So what first up tonight is Mark Munzer. We're so happy to have him here. There's been so much going on in town, so many new development projects. There's this new gatekeeper stuff going on. People have a lot of questions like what's going on downtown. So we are very happy to have Mark here, and welcome, Mark. I think I've made you the co-host, so I think we have smooth sailing here.
Great. Thank you, Johanna. Thank you, everybody, for inviting me this evening. I greatly appreciate it. So I'm Mark Munzer. I'm Community Development and Transportation Director for the City of Redwood City. Had this great position for the last 2 years. Prior to that, I was the Community Development Director for Menlo Park. The Community Development and Transportation Department, real quickly before I get into some of the development projects for the city right now, is a really big department. It's a multifaceted department. It's 4 different divisions. Our biggest division is actually engineering and transportation. So our department plans, designs, and constructs all of the city, most all of the city's infrastructure. So that's water lines, sewer lines, pump stations, sidewalks, bike lanes, all of that good stuff. The second division is building and code enforcement. So building permit, plan review, subsequent building inspections, and then also the code enforcement aspect of that. So enforcement of the city's municipal and property codes. The third division is GIS and analytics, which is a primarily internal division, but it supports the citywide organization, and it's a lot of the data and mapping that you see on the public facing aspect of the city. So our GIS website, all of that data, all of our dashboards related to city demographics and public safety and all of that is generated by that group as housed in community development. And then the group I'm here to, that gets a lot of attention for sure, is planning. So planning is both current planning. So an example of current planning is a proposed development project or redevelopment, typically in Redwood City, of a site. And then long-range planning is like the downtown precise plan or the Stanford precise plan or the Inner Harbor plan. Those are all examples of long-range documents. So what I thought I would do this evening, I will share the screen from the city's development webpage. There's 17 active proposals right now of larger development projects. I could be here a very long time going into detail on all of these, so I'd rather have you ask me questions, but I will provide a brief overview of most of these projects. There's a few that are smaller that I'm happy to answer questions on, but just to give you an idea of the amount of development that's currently under review. So hopefully, let's see here. It's not letting me show what I want to show. Let's see.
Is it on my side, Mark? Oh, there we go. We got it.
Got it?
Yes, we got it.
So if you just go to the city website, redwoodcity.org, and type in development projects or some variation of that, it will bring you to this page. And just to give you an idea of how it's organized through proposed projects. So those are projects that are under review and have not had a decision yet, made typically by the city council, sometimes the planning commission. Typically how this goes is the planning commission reviews something and then makes a recommendation to the city council, but there are some kind of mid-sized projects where the planning commission is the final decision body. The second bracket of projects, as I scroll down here, are projects that have been approved by the city but have not yet begun construction. So that's that other division that I was talking about, building and code enforcement. They're in some level of permit review. The larger projects can take up to a year for the city to issue, sometimes longer. It depends on the applicant and the thoroughness of their submission. So some examples there are a few hotel projects, one on Broadway, one on Veterans, the South Main mixed use project, which was approved by the city council in November. So that's along El Camino where the Ford dealership is, and some surface parking lots. The city actually has a apartment building that was part of that project. And then Strata, which is out in the Inner Harbor area, which has been approved and is about to begin building construction, and Broadway Plaza, where the CVS is presently located, is being relocated. And then the final category is under construction. So those are projects that have received their permits. So I'm going to go back up real quick and go to the projects that are under review. So where you see, and thank you, Johanna, for making the reference to gatekeeper. So what gatekeeper means is the city council a few years ago initiated a gatekeeper process. And what that means is a project needs to amend the city's general plan. So basically the city's blueprint for land use. They need an amendment to the general plan in order for the city to process this development project. So that means there needs to be a decision point by the city council to initiate the project, and then the project goes under review where it is now. So where you see gatekeeper dash, that's what that means. Not all of the gatekeeper projects have filed their applications. The city council approved 8 of them. Some of them have filed their applications and some have not. So briefly, I will go down through here. So gatekeeper, starting in the upper left, gatekeeper Bradford RCSD. So that's a proposed project on the current RCSD administrative offices site and a office parcel next to it. So it's a joint proposal from the school district and from the Sbrato organization, who's the developer of the Broadway Plaza site. The image you see there, the forefront image of a brown building, is a proposed apartment building for school teachers and staff. And the building in the background, which is a more gray tone, is a proposed office building. The school district would occupy a certain number of floors of that office building. So that's the arrangement that is underway now. The project is under environmental review. The next one is the American Legion site. So that's about a 360 some proposed apartment building on the current American Legion site. And it also includes the relocation of the American Legion post within this proposed building, should it be approved. And it also includes a significant amount of veterans housing. So a little different than some of our other multifamily proposals in that it's specifically supporting veterans and their families. The next one, you've probably heard of it, Sequoia Station, 1057 El Camino Real. So that's a proposed redevelopment of the Sequoia Station Shopping Center. It's part of the city's larger transit district. So that's a 28-acre proposal that's before the city council. And what the Sequoia Station project is a subset of that plan. And then the transit district also includes proposed track expansion for Caltrain, proposed relocation of the current train station north to the surface parking lots on Perry, and potential grade separation similar to what we have right now on Jefferson. 1330 El Camino is the Record Man site, probably as it's more commonly known. The project proposal is called Redwood Discovery. So that's about 120 units of rental housing. I will say that the city's affordable housing ordinance, all of these proposals include a minimum of 20% affordable housing units. Some of them include more. The gatekeeper projects, some of them include more as a way of additional community benefit for the city. Bridge Parkway is known as Redwood Life. So this is in Redwood Shores. Currently, it's a 1 million square foot office park. And it's located, if you're on Bridge Parkway, if you go just past the Redwood Shores Library, kind of on that edge as you get to the water. This is a big proposal. It's over 3 million square feet of new office. It's a very long phased program, I believe about 15 to 20 years. And it's called Redwood Life because it targets life sciences. So R&D, biotech, life sciences. A lot of you probably know, a lot of that was, up until the recent past located further north in San Francisco and South San Francisco, and has been migrating south to the peninsula and even into Santa Clara County. El Camino 901 El Camino is a gatekeeper project commonly known as the AutoZone site. So the current site of the AutoZone at Taqueria, I believe it's closed now, but Taqueria and some surface parking lots. That is a proposed office building, a 7-story office building. Probably its key aspects are what's called Chrysanthemum Plaza to honor the city's heritage as it relates to chrysanthemums and their place in Redwood City history, and also a teen center in cooperation with the city's Park and Rec department, and I believe also Sequoia High School. I will go by 955 Woodside. It's I believe a 7-unit infill townhome project. 2300 Broadway is the current Chase Bank site. So the image there shows what could be a new office building where Chase Bank currently sits. The biggest aspect of this proposal, Chase Bank would come back into the building as a ground floor tenant. But its biggest aspects you'll see off to the right there is a potential closure of Hamilton Street. So that'd be, right next to Courthouse Square, right across from Starbucks. They're proposing to close that and effectively make that an extension of the Redwood groves. They would be maintaining most of those redwood trees on the corner, and then potentially closing Hamilton. You'll note, when anybody proposes to close a city street, that's a very involved process. It involves planning and engineering, fire, police. While we've all probably seen the benefits of some street closure during COVID, to permanently close a street is something that takes a lot of review. Sequoia Hotel is the potential renovation and addition to the existing Sequoia Hotel. It would be an additional 3 stories added to, I believe, the current 4-story Sequoia Hotel building. It would include retail tenants on the ground floor, cafe space, and also a rooftop bar amenity space. It would also be a boutique hotel, I believe about 80 some rooms. 77 Birch is also a smaller infill townhome project, as is 847 Woodside, the former site of the mortuary. And that redevelopment, I'm blanking. I can look on that real quick what that number is. And if you click on any of these on the website, it's 44 residential units at 847 Woodside, 2,500 square feet of retail. The next 2 are Stanford. 505 Broadway would be the next office building, 200,000 square foot or so office building as part of the Stanford and Redwood City campus. That takes kind of a different review process. It does take a formal city review process, but the campus itself has been, as you all know, previously approved, and there's a development agreement that the city has negotiated with the university. So the process for that next part of Stanford is a little more streamlined than some of these other development projects. And then 440 to 510 Broadway is a new proposed medical office building. So across the street on Broadway on the Stanford Medical Campus, it would replace an older office building that's on there. Now also a more expedited review because they've had previous approvals. 505 Bayshore is at the Allen Steel site. So if you get off at Whipple and go the other way, go towards the water and go towards Bayshore, that's right at the bend there as you get to go to Bear Island. That would be home ownership. So it differentiates a little bit in that it's not proposed rental units, would include some affordable home ownership units. So the city is always trying to encourage that because most of the affordable units we get to be rental proposals. 1125 Arguello is at the intersection of Arguello and Whipple. It is a proposed office development with their housing partner is Habitat for Humanity. So Habitat, as you know, is constructing a building on Jefferson downtown. And again, the good thing about Habitat is that it's home ownership versus rental. It would also include, there's a couple historic buildings or potentially historic buildings on that site that would be retained and potentially used for childcare purposes, which is of course one of the city council's priorities and have been included in a number of the gatekeeper and other recent development proposals, either free daycare or heavily subsidized daycare to address that need in Redwood City and San Mateo County. 557 Bayshore is a Sayufi site, so the former movie theater site. This would also potentially include the Villa Sport Club, along with about 250, I believe, apartment units. Because of its location, it's undergoing some more environmental review so that we understand how additional residential units on Bear Island could be accommodated for, namely emergency access and other sorts of circulation. So we hope to get to a decision on Sayufi soon. And then finally, Harborview, which has been a proposal that's been in front of the city for several years, former Malibu site. It is moving forward. You've probably seen recently in the news, they have changed, and the staff told me they changed the site plan. So I don't see a changed site plan, but the site plan you're looking at right here, you can see my cursor, corner of Bloomquist was a proposed community commons building, effectively be able to be used by the community and by nonprofit organizations for office space. Jay Paul, who's the developer, has recently changed their proposal and is now proposing a publicly accessible ice rink on the site. And so now the city has to go and do an additional environmental analysis, because clearly the impacts of having an ice rink, while maybe beneficial, have traffic and other concerns that the previous building did not have. So this proposal is 765,000 square feet of office. They have proposed to enter into a development agreement with the city, and the city, for a development agreement, for those of you who don't know, at its very highest level is an agreement between the city of Redwood City and a developer for certain development rights over a period of time. And in return, the city gets community benefits that are defined. So it doesn't happen with most projects, but some projects seek it. And Harborview would be one of those. So Johanna, I will stop there because I know that's a lot of information, and I'm happy to take any questions or talk also about any of the projects that have been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate that. And so for whoever has questions, just go ahead and take yourself off of mute and go ahead and ask.
So I have a question. A few weeks ago in the Chronicle, there was a big article on the new levy in Foster City, which is going up. And they're addressing the potential sea level rise. Now, a lot of these new projects are east of 101 and certainly would be impacted by this sea level rise. How is the city going to mitigate for that?
Thank you for that question. Certainly on our radar, and as we all know, sea level rise is happening. So we are planning with it. So twofold to answer your question. One is One Shoreline, which is the newly established agency as part of the San Mateo County Flood Control District. We are partnering with them on funding for levee enhancements in Redwood Shores. We have just applied for FEMA grant that's administered through the state of California, along with some of the other communities that border Redwood Shores, i.e. San Carlos and Belmont and the county of San Mateo, because they have the airport asset there. So that is, we're partnering with regional organizations. And then the other thing we do is on particular development projects, the project sites are actually risen 14 to 16 feet. So if you have an opportunity, I mentioned the Strata development in the Inner Harbor area. If you're in the Inner Harbor area, like by Bayak, in that area where the Bay Trail goes, you'll see that site is significantly raised in preparation for its construction.
Thank you, Gail. Did you have another question, Gail?
Well, so when you build up someplace, it's going to impact other low-lying areas. And I'm just not sure that all of the consequences are being considered.
I totally understand that. And you're right, you know, where you build up one area, and that could be outside of Redwood City, right? So great that Foster City has invested in a new levee system, and that's fantastic. But clearly that has impacts further on down the bay, namely Redwood Shores, because that's next. So all of that is very technical, and all of that is accounted for when we start to plan for our levee modifications in Redwood Shores, and also in the east of 101 area by the Inner Harbor area, because the Seaport Boulevard has a levee system that surrounds some of that light industrial use. You know, the port of Redwood City is certainly involved with that. So it's BCDC, which has jurisdiction over the Bay shoreline, sometimes state fish and wildlife. So there's a number of agencies that have to come together to typically approve these projects. A good example of that, Gail, is 505 Bayshore. That proposed project, like that, is taking a number of different agencies in order to review that for a decision.
I've got two comments. Hi, can I ask a couple of questions? It's obvious that the small town of Redwood City that we moved here to enjoy over 40 years ago is long gone and is never coming back. Is there going to be any end to this construction of apartments? And what's the occupancy rate of all the buildings that have been built so far? Are these places actually all rented?
Jerry, are you talking about residential buildings? Just so
residential, yes.
Well, to answer your first question, I get that question quite a bit. Given Redwood City's location on Caltrain and equidistant between San Francisco and San Jose, there is, just by virtue of our geography and our location, there's a lot of development interest in the community. Also, property owners have rights to, or applicants have rights to put proposals in front of the city to redevelop their property. The one caveat to that, which I mentioned before, is if you need to amend the city's general plan, in which case those are all those gatekeeper projects where the city council ultimately decided that the amount of community benefits associated with these development projects at least allowed for their initiation. I always want to be clear with everybody, this was just an initiation. This was the very beginning of these development project reviews. They all change, big development projects change over the course of their review. So this will be probably a 1.5 year process before we get to a decision point. In terms of the residential buildings, pre-COVID, very, very, very highly occupied, like 90-95%. Typically the new market rate buildings, the Indigos, the 201 Marshalls, those buildings were heavily occupied. As with the rest of the Bay Area and a large part of the country, they saw decreases during COVID, but my understanding is those have started to ramp back up now that we're hopefully recovering.
One last thing, how much thought has been given to the small businesses that are all going to be displaced by any high-rise building that goes in there? You may lose a taco place, a restaurant, auto repair shop, a body shop, sewing machine repair. What happens to all of these small businesses that can't afford the rents in these places? And I don't know if they'll leave town or move to some other workplace in town. It doesn't seem like there's any solution to that.
We have an economic development group that's not in my department, but that actively works with any businesses that have to relocate because they can't afford to be in a new building and try and retain them within Redwood City. Sometimes that's just not possible. I can think of a few examples on Main Street where there have been businesses that have relocated within Redwood City, but you're right, sometimes it's not possible, and it's all part of the decision-making process.
I remember when we lost Getz Brothers, that was a big deal because all of the schools ordered uniforms. It was a good feeling to go to Getz Brothers and give the business there. And boy, we really missed out on an opportunity. And now they're not many more miles away, but they're not in Redwood City, and they had been here for so long. So I think that's important. Thank you for bringing that up, Jerry. Who has another question?
Johanna, you're on mute.
Thank you. I'm scrolling up and down to see if anyone's waving at me. So I hear someone, but I think it could be just that they're off of mute. So I had a question, and anyone can interrupt if you were waving at me. How many, it sounds like your department is the busiest department in Redwood City. And I hear at council meetings over and over that there's only so much staff time, and you have to allocate the time and allocate the project. So in an ideal world, with the number of people who want to come to our city, how many how many people do you need in your department? How many do you need to make it where you could get the work done in the pace and manner that you'd like to get it done?
Oh, thank you for that question. I wish I knew the answer to it. You know, every department director is going to tell you their staff works a ton. I mean, I know that sometimes there's some doubts about that, but I can tell you that the people that work for me and with me, more importantly, are dedicated public servants, and they put in hours upon hours to process these projects ultimately for a decision by the Planning Commission and the City Council. So I'm fortunate the City Council last year approved some additional planning positions specifically for the planning group because of the amount of development. So that has helped greatly. They've also approved some outside planning services to augment city staff to help us process these development projects. The one thing that I always say with that is because you may have a consultant reviewing it doesn't mean that city staff doesn't have involvement. They have a lot of involvement because they have to oversee, because we're working for the city and we're the liaisons to the community and to the council. So we are always involved in the process, but it's helped a lot. So the combination of a few additional city staff positions, which were not new positions to Redwood City, they were reallocated from other existing positions from other departments, and then some significant dollars to consultants to help us process these developments have helped a lot.
Yeah, I know you guys.
We also have a new assistant director. You know, for almost I've been here about 2 years, and during that whole time, we've never had anybody overseeing our planning division with all this work. So it was my second job. So I'm very excited. We now have an assistant director, and she oversees our planning and our GIS groups. Her name is Sue Exline. She's actually on vacation this week, which is why she's not here, but that has also helped greatly.
Well, I'm really grateful for all of your hard work. And I want to let everybody on the meeting tonight know that Mark helped us with the tree. With Matt's tree and the oak tree, Mark was the person who we got in touch with and was keeping us updated then when we saved that tree over on Connecticut. So Mark does a lot of things, and we're grateful for his work. If everyone's done with the questions, I think we're going to let Mark wrap up. Does anyone else have any questions about any specific projects or anything? I know we put the survey out. We kind of went over a lot of them. I don't see any hands up, so I will say thank you so much, Mark. And I'm going to go ahead and change the screen co-hosting here. And
Can I just say one more thing real quick?
Sure. Yes.
I just want to encourage everybody. The city is starting our housing element process. Hopefully you've heard something about this. So these are the state of California requires the city of Redwood City to approve a certain number of residential units over an 8-year period. And we're starting that process. We have to be done with it by the end of 2022. And the state of California has told us that number is 4,600 residential units. So what that means is we have to find property and plan and potentially zone for that number of units. So clearly that's it involves the entire community. It's not just the downtown area, it involves every single neighborhood. So if you have not seen that, I hope you will in the future. And of course, it's it's its own website within the city website. So thank you for that.
Sure. Thank you, Mark. And I'll make sure to include that in the meeting notes. Any of the information related to that, it'll go up on our website and it'll go out in the neighborhood news. So next, I would like to introduce now I'm going to have you say your name because I have a name that's difficult to say as well. So our senior transportation plan, is that senior what is your title, your official title?
I am senior transportation planner.
There we go. And can you pronounce your name for us, please?
Yes, my name is Malahad. My last name is Orang. I know my last name is very hard to pronounce. I am senior transportation planner working under Mark. I am in engineering division. tonight, sorry, I'm looking at two monitors because, so I should run my presentation, right? Okay,
Yes,
let's-
please.
Oh. Can you see?
I can.
Is it half shown or is it totally
We
shown?
can see the whole thing.
Okay. So tonight I'm going to talk about a joint planning effort that we are working on, and I'm managing and leading the process. We call it Redwood City Walk, Bike, Thrive. Sorry, I'm going back and forth. I'm looking at two monitors at the same time. The two planning efforts that we are working on, one of them is a Vision Zero action plan, and one of them is a citywide bicycle and pedestrian master plan. And the reason we started these two because at the same time, because the basic analysis that needs to be done for these two planning efforts are very similar, and we received grants almost at the same time. So we decided to run these two planning efforts together. So what is Vision Zero? Vision Zero is a philosophy that says the accidents, the traffic collisions, they are not accidents. They could they're preventable and they're incidents. So with data-driven strategies, we can actually come up with programs and projects to eliminate traffic-related fatalities and severe injuries. And Vision Zero is a philosophy that came from Europe, and there are many American cities that they are adopting this policy and this program these days. So the goal is to eliminate all traffic-related fatalities and severe injuries. So there are three essentials to a successful Vision Zero program, which we call them 3 E's. One of them is engineering. One of them is educational and encouragement programs to the general public or to youth and school kids. And one of them is enforcement. And no Vision Zero program could be successful without all these three components working together. So these are the three essentials of a successful Vision Zero programs. So what's going on in Redwood City? The City Council every year, they adopt a strategic priority for the city for fiscal year. And for in the past few years, transportation was one of their strategic priorities. For the current year, there are 3 strategic priorities: housing, youth, and transportation. And for transportation, one of the goals is to focus on bicycle and pedestrian safety and Vision Zero, and to create a Vision Zero action plan to implement Vision Zero strategies to eliminate traffic-related fatalities and severe injuries. At the same time, we have a citywide transportation plan which was adopted in 2018, and the goal, which we call it Redwood City Moves. The first goal in Redwood City Moves is to eliminate all traffic-related fatalities and severe injuries for all modes by 2030. So that's the goal for the city. Then we decided to develop these 2 plans. So we picked up some goals for the plans. For the Vision Zero action plan, the goal is to identify projects and educational and enforcement programs to address high collision locations in Redwood City and address the main collision factors in the city. What are the main factors that contribute to collisions in hotspots of the collisions? For the bicycle and pedestrian master plan, the goal is to help a city guide and find ways to increase active transportation mode, and then to create a safe and high quality bicycle and pedestrian environment in the city, and to identify and prioritize bicycle and pedestrian projects based on various factors and criteria like safety, access to transit, equity, gap closure, and ease of use for all ages and abilities. So these were the goals that we started the program. So what we rebranded these two joint efforts as Redwood City Walk Bike Thrive, and that's the logo we created. This diagram shows the timeline for the program. So we started the plan around April. Our project consultant is working on the existing conditions report right now. So this presentation is actually, you are the first neighborhood association that I'm doing the presentation for. We are going to have few virtual public workshops in the next few weeks. So this presentation may change when our consultant completes the existing conditions analysis. Currently, there is a pinnable map and a survey out there, and we are seeking input from the community on challenges and issues related to traffic safety and walking and biking in Redwood City. So these are the two screen captures that I got from our survey, which is also translated in Spanish, and our pinnable map. So far, we have about 100-something comments on the pinnable map. Hopefully, we will get more. So you can see I zoomed out Farm Hill. There are probably like 7 comments received from Farm Hill residents on the pinnable map. And the survey and the pinnable map will be closed on August 15th. So for the existing conditions analysis, then so the existing condition analysis plus all the input we receive from the community helps us to identify projects and they help us to actually prioritize and score the projects based on those. So for existing condition analysis, when we develop the scope of work with our project consultant, we ask them to look at so many different factors that may impact walking and biking and traffic safety in different neighborhoods of Redwood City. So I just showed maps of some of them. They're still being developed. So one of them is a school-age children, a safe route to school. We hope that more and more kids can walk and bike to school. That is why you can see we mapped census tracts with number and percentage of the school-age children in each census tract. And then in future, when we look at to analyze and come up with the projects and prioritize the projects, we layer all this data on top of each other to see how they look when they all combine and which areas are in greater needs. And the other factor, these are just examples, are concentration of seniors, which is very important in terms of accessibility, being ADA, and the different intersections, and their need, for example, for improvements on traffic signals, crosswalks, sidewalks, and curb ramps. So this map shows the concentration of seniors in Redwood City. And as you can see, in Farm Hill area, there are very high concentration of seniors. The other factors we look at concentration of disadvantaged communities. And this is actually a map that these areas are defined by a Metropolitan Transportation Commission for Bay Area, which we call them MTC. So this map is from the data that they release and they redefine the community of concern area every 2 to 3 years. As you can see, those neighborhoods are more concentrated around 2 sides of El Camino Real and around Friendly Acres and downtown area. The other factors, we are looking at the high level, we are looking at public health information in Redwood City, factors such as obesity, air pollution, and as you can see in this map, we are looking at, for example, asthma attack at different census tracts in the city. As you can see, the census tracts that are closest to 101, they suffer more from air pollution and asthma attack. And as you can see, this map shows exposure to pollution. This is another factor that we are looking at when we are going to identify the projects. At the same time, we are again at a high level, and we are looking at demographic characteristic of a census tract. And one of them, for example, is concentration of individuals with disabilities. And that's very important, especially when we identify pedestrian projects and we are looking at to make and create more accessible transportation infrastructure. And as you can see again, there are more concentration of individuals with disability around Farm Hill and Canyon and around downtown area. The other factors, we look at households with no vehicle. We are looking at something we call it bicycle level of traffic stress. This map is from a planning effort that is done by City County Association of San Mateo County, which CCAG. The way they developed this map is they actually ranked each roadway for bicyclists based on the level of stress that they may experience when they're riding bicycle on roadways. And that's based on number of travel lanes, the speed limit, if there's a bike lane or not. And this is also another factor that we're looking at when we are identifying bicycle projects. In terms of pedestrian environment, we are doing pedestrian comfort level analysis. This is an analysis that is still being developed. It is not completed yet. When it is completed, we will upload all the information on the project web page. We are looking at major barriers for bicycle and pedestrians, which are, for example, creeks, very large intersections, freeway interchanges, train tracks. These are the barriers to pedestrian and bicyclists. We are looking at presence of sidewalk, major trip generators like schools, parks, and we are also looking at transit ridership, bus stops with higher ridership where they look at. These are very important when we develop the pedestrian projects. In terms of looking at more focus on Vision Zero plan, our consultant is developing and they're working on primary collision factors in Redwood City. A few maps and data that they created that I'm going to show in the next few slides. They looked at the collisions from 2015 to 2019 in Redwood City, and they mapped them and they showed them on hotspots. As you can see, this is hotspot map of pedestrian collisions in Redwood City. And there are a concentration of pedestrian collisions around Camino Real, Veterans, some parts of Redwood Shores and Woodside Road. They're all over the place, but you can see the concentration in some parts of the city. They also created the bicycle collision hotspots, and as you can see, they are all over the town, but there are some hotspots again along Middlefield, along El Camino Real and Woodside that you can see there are a few hotspots of bicycle collisions. In terms of vehicle-only collisions, they're all over the place. They're again around Middlefield, El Camino Real, 10184 interchange, and Veterans Boulevard. So looking at the collision, the major collision factors in Redwood City, that is what is going to guide us to come up with a Vision Zero action plan. And our consultant is going to look at all the demographic of the victims, the primary collision factor, and everything to come up with the programs and projects. When they did look at the collisions in Redwood City between 2015 and 2019, about 32% of the total collisions were injury collisions. And out of that, about 24%, 379% within 4 years where collisions were involved in with the bicycle and pedestrian, which is very high. And about 5% of them were resulting in fatality or severe injury. If you look at the Redwood City ranking in terms of the cities with the same size in California, our ranking has changed. But in terms of pedestrian collisions and bicycle collisions, we were sometimes between, I believe in 2017, we were around like rank 11 out of 105 cities, same size as Redwood City. Now we are ranked 22, which in general, it doesn't show that we improved. It just means that there are other cities same size as Redwood City that they have more collisions. But compared to all other cities same size in California, we are actually have very high number of bicycle and pedestrian collisions. So the primary collision factors in Redwood City in general, the top 3 primary collision factors are unsafe speed, vehicle right-of-way violations, and improper turning. And when you look at the demographic of victims, Hispanic and Black population are disproportionately represented as victims in Redwood City when you compare it to the overall percentage of their population in Redwood City. This chart, the next few charts, they're all about the collision factors. This chart shows the injury collisions by collision factor in Redwood City. And as you can see, the top 3 are unsafe speed, improper turning, and driving or bicycling under the influence. So this is where, especially for the third factor, this is where the educational programs and enforcement program became very useful when we developed the Vision Zero Action Plan. In terms of age distribution of collision victims, we looked at the census tract data and we looked at the population of Redwood City. And as you can see, for the population of 15 to 64, these populations are overrepresented in terms of being victim in traffic collisions. When we looked at the race of the victims in traffic collisions and compared that to the census tract information and share of each race in overall Redwood City population, as you can see, the Hispanic population and Black population are overrepresented in terms of victim in traffic collisions in Redwood City. But how do they look in terms of a total number of collisions, how many of them are vehicle-related collisions, and how many of fatal collisions are vehicle? So these 3 diagrams, for example, the one in the middle, it shows out of all collisions that happened in Redwood City between 2015 and 2019, about 76% of that are vehicle collisions, but they only represent 33% of traffic collisions. And this shows pedestrians are more vulnerable when they're involved in a collision. And even only 11% of all collisions involve pedestrians, but 67% of fatalities were pedestrians. So there are a lot more diagrams that I can show you. They will be all combined in existing conditions report that our consultant is preparing. So as I mentioned, these are combined planning efforts. We hope that we can come up with 2 plans, which one of them is Vision Zero Action Plan and one of them is Citywide Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan. We are hoping that we can target specific groups like seniors and school-age children. For our analysis, equity is one of the factors that we pay specific attention to. That it could be equity in terms of disadvantaged communities, age, and disability factors. And as I mentioned, separate to school is another factor, and we are hoping that we can get more parents involved in the planning process. We really want to hear from parents, especially the ones who are walking and biking their kids to their school. And then the educational and encouragement programs, all will be developed based on the assessment that we are developing and doing. So what the end result will be for Vision Zero Action Plan? So for the bicycle and pedestrian master plan, it will be a list of capital projects and programs that we come up with. For the Vision Zero action plan, we are doing a systematic safety assessment on the collision zero velocity. The end result, we are going to develop a toolbox for Vision Zero that is going to be used in future for any location that we identify there is a safety issue related to that collision. At the same time, in the scope of our work, we are going to do some conceptual design for high priority Vision Zero locations. And that will help us in pursue funding through grant programs in future, if we have some concepts for improvements already ready. This is my last slide. This was very high level summary of what factors we are looking at when we are developing these two plans. What I need from all neighborhoods is to get involved. We currently have a survey and a pinnable map that is out there, going to be closed on August 15th. So please go ahead and share that with your neighbors and friends in Redwood City. We want to hear more comments and receive more comments. We also, in the project website, we are asking if you would like to be in the stakeholder list and receive updates on the project. We are also going to have 2 virtual workshops. One of them is on July 27th at 6 p.m. and another one on August 7th, which is a weekend at 10 a.m. So if you can spread the word, get it out, and be engaged and involved in the planning process, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. We really appreciate it. And we are so glad that we were the first ones to receive it. So thank you so much. This is an ongoing issue in our neighborhood because we don't really have a way to get our kids or ourselves really downtown. We have an inconsistent bus service that's infrequently used, and Samtrans has difficulty filling their routes because of the cost of living and rents and housing. So that's difficult as well. Farm Hill, we've actually had a child die on the way to school. A lot of our areas don't even have sidewalks. So this is a serious issue for our neighborhood. So I'm grateful for your presentation. I am a bit concerned that the goal time is 2030. I think safety is something that can't wait. So maybe you can explain a little bit on what the thought process was around the time. That seems like a long ways away.
This is not actually a long way. So some cities, they have like 3-year time frame and they revisit it every 3-year or 5-year. In terms of, I mean, if you look at the total collision in Redwood City, when we looked at, we did a transportation monitoring report last year, and we had between 2010 and 2018, we had about like 10,000 collisions in Redwood City, which is a lot. So 10-year time frame, or the time that the Redwood City move developed in 2018, a 12-year time frame is not actually long. What we're hoping to get out of the Vision Zero action plan is actually to come up with some short-term programs and projects and some longer-term ones. And there are so many new things that I'm sure you heard of, like quick build improvements. Those are the things that we can do in a short term. The enforcement programs, they can be very effective in short term. I was looking at how other cities did it, like Fremont, and they got results, for example, in first 3 years. So the hope is, I know that eliminating all traffic related fatalities and injuries by 2030 looks short, but it is, when you actually look at how many projects needs to be done, it is, I think it's not even enough. And then, yeah, so one outcome of this planning process is actually to tier the projects and hopefully have like 3-year increments. We can have some results. Hopefully we can see some results.
Thank you so much. I think we're going to go over, we have two questions in the chat. What the first question is from Jim, and he says, where are the traffic related collision incidents occurring, in particular to the Farm Hill area that may require some attention? I know years ago we used to have traffic enforcement on Jefferson and Farm Hill, but we haven't had that for many years. So Jim's question is, where are they occurring in our neighborhood?
I know one of the locations that was higher in collision was intersection of Emerald Hills Road and Farm Hill, right? Which is very close to a school, right? That is one of the intersections. I have to take a look at closely at Farm Hill where they happen. If you look at the overall map, they are more in other parts of the city, less in Farm Hill. I know there were 2 bicycle fatalities happened in Farm Hill closer to Kenyatta College and 280 few years ago.
Yeah, we also had one at Alameda and Jefferson as well. A little bit on your way to school at, I believe it was Kennedy Middle School, could have been Woodside High School. Okay, the next question is from Leslie. And Leslie says, regarding schools, Redwood City School District is a district of choice. Families can choose to send their kids to any school in the district. And many in the eastern neighborhoods of the city send their children to schools on the far western end of the city. As your injury slide showed, it would be irresponsible to force families to send their children on foot or bicycle for a 2+ mile hike to and from school. So are the plans taking this into account, that just because you live in a district and there's that many children there, the census data shows that may not be where they're going to school. And a lot of the neighborhoods had some schools close, so they're going even further. And I know I have young children, and I don't feel comfortable having my children ride a bike to school, which is a shame. And I'm sure other people feel the same way. So could you address that for me, please?
Yes, especially after school consolidation, one thing that we are looking at as a part of this plan is we are looking at where kids are coming from to each school, and we got attendance data from a school district. And especially after consolidation, kids are coming from everywhere. Believe it or not, there are some kids that they actually walk or bike to the school, or they take transit all their age. For example, kids that go to Kennedy, kids that go to Sequoia High School. There are lots of kids, they walk or bike to the school. And that's where the need for a better infrastructure comes. I know there are like elementary school kids, there is very less likely that they walk even a mile to get to their school. Probably their parents drive them. But that is why I really like to engage middle school and high school kids in the planning process. And I actually reached out to youth and teen commission in Redwood City to hear from them. When we talk about mode shift, we are not pushing or encouraging parents to walk or bike their kids to school. It is their choice. And there are lots of parents that for some reason, not availability of vehicle, or that's their preference, they prefer to walk or bike their kids to school. So that's happening. And when you look at, when we were working at, for example, the Vera Bike Walk project, that is what we heard, that there are lots of parents, they walk their kids from El Camino to Roosevelt Elementary. So these are happening. There are families that they actually do that. So we have to address their needs too.
Thank you for that. That's where my son goes to school, at Roosevelt. And there are a lot of families that walk, and that can be a dangerous walk as well. and maybe I think Mike is still on the call. I know we had a child, I believe it was a child or a teen who was crossing the school near John Gill. I know it has a new name now. That was run over by a car just recently, just like over the last month. If Mike's on, he probably responded to that call. I know we're going over on time. Oh, Rob's got a question here. This is a good question. It says, all of them are good, but this is particular, we haven't touched on it yet. When will the Farm Hill Road Diet stripping be made permanent?
I'm glad you asked about the staff need and staff availability from Mark. That is one of the projects that actually we are waiting for the staff availability for that. I think it was done as a pilot project in 2015. It is in our to-do list to make it permanent. As a part of that project, we are also looking at when City did road diet, I wasn't with City, I joined City in 2019, but I heard about the project. When City did the road diet, it was more on adding bicycle infrastructure, but when we do the permanent project, we are actually looking at to improve some pedestrian crossings at some of the intersections too. So it will be a project with a larger scale.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I know that there are some people who've attended tonight to go over one of the hottest issues in Farm Hill or Lower Farm Hill, which is the temporary roundabout on Dover and the slow streets on Crompton. So for those on the call who aren't familiar, Farm Hill Neighborhood Association, we did our own survey. We paid to have it done because we were left off of the list of neighborhoods that had a safe street. We weren't even considered for that. And we have a lot of kids that had a hard time just being at home, young kids. And so we did our survey, we did all the legwork, we proposed Fernside. I think we had like dozens of people said Fernside. We were ready to go with Fernside. And I was up here and I get the call that it's going in Crompton and Dover. My phone was ringing off the hook. Why is it going on Crompton and Dover? We only had 2 votes for Crompton and Dover. And since then then we had got rid of Dover, and then Dover's got that temporary roundabout. So it's been kind of complicated to get in and out of Edith Avenue where Donna and I live. I know for some time when shelter in place, I did see kids skating up and down Crompton. It's a nice hill, you can skateboard down, but things are opened up now and neighbors are really expressing concern. I know there's an issue with the UPS truck when they come down Cheshire, and I know Jerry and Regina move the signs a lot to help it out, but I think it would be helpful if we had some concrete information on how long does the program last. It's not really being used as intended, and more people are speaking up about this is really impacting me. I think they've been very patient, so I want to make sure everybody has a seat at the table, and you're the person to talk to. So,
yes, thank you for mentioning that. So slow streets, the reason we did not do Fernside because that's a primary fire route, and a fire department, that we had this staff working group, and they said, no, don't go with Fernside. So we went with the second choice. We did publish a survey in October to all residents on slow streets. For the Crompton, we received about 15 responses, and the responses were in support of keeping the Crompton as a slow street. That is why the next step recommendation was to keep it for now. Then I heard from you and some other residents that they prefer us to remove it. And then we heard from some residents on Vera and Cheshire that can you keep it? Can you extend it to Cheshire or Vera? So we got to a point that we were like, okay, let's do another survey and expand the addresses. So the survey is out now, Joanna. So today when I looked at, I only received 7 responses. We sent, I believe it was about 130 or 40 addresses that we send the survey. So please spread the word because we really want to know what the majority of residents want. Based on the last survey, the majority of responses, they said keep it, so we kept it. But we are doing a supplement survey to see what we need to do.
Well,
we have to do that because we removed it at another location where people did not want it at Bain Place. And after we removed it, we received emails that the residents want to keep it. So surveying residents is the only way that we can hear from the residents what the majority want.
Well, I really appreciate you. I really appreciate having that opportunity. And I really think that the folks, because I just represent everyone. I want to make sure that I get the right people in place and everybody's being heard. And so I was concerned when I started to get concerns, you know, because most of us have lived here a very long time and we all get along very well. And this is an issue in the neighborhood. I'm interested now that Cheshire is speaking up because everyone's using Cheshire because that's the way into our neighborhood, right, Donna? Like if you don't go out down Crompton and you don't go Dover, you go Cheshire. So they're getting all this extra traffic, even, you know, that they may not have gotten otherwise. And I know there are people who like it, that benefit from it. And then I know that it's also complicated. So my role is just to make sure that everybody's heard and that we at least give information. I'm here, but if anyone who lives on, if you can say the names of the streets, if you did not receive it in the mail, let me know about that. And I can let Malhat know that you didn't receive the survey. And then maybe, I know Donna, would you like to speak? I know Donna's been very active on this. Would you like to speak about it?
Yes, thank you, Jana. Two things, Malad. One is we still don't understand how Crompton, that little block, got to be the second choice for the area. It seems to have, it would have been better as a parallel street to Fernside. Crompton is a very hilly street in our section. And, you know, like Johanna said, the only time we ever see anybody working, using it is the skateboarders. The second thing is, has anybody addressed the fact that the signs themselves are dangerous? They get moved, they get blown over, they get, you're not able to see it when you're turning right off of Alameda and onto Crompton. There's no sign at Vera to let you know before you get to the end of the street that you're approaching in the street. But mainly it's a matter of, we didn't get the survey in October. So we're concerned that, and then also the other thing that I'm hearing from some of my neighbors is that you're selling your cover letter for the current survey only went to one name. In other words, if there were 2 or 3 people living in the adults living in the household, they want to know why they don't get an opportunity to send in a vote.
Could not hear your last.
Okay, my last point was that the way the survey went out, and we just got our survey on we just got our survey on Wednesday, so I think you should factor that into the fact that you have only a few responses. But the second thing is I got a couple of neighbors who said, why are you only sending it to one person in the household when there are multiple adults living in the household? They feel that they should have a right to vote.
So the way we pick addresses for project notifications is based on the information we have from the residents for tax purposes. So that's the only information we have. We don't have any information like how many people are in the household.
Well, I can tell you that you have, for example, when a property is owned by a couple, it is held in a joint in the name of co-trustees, and yet only one trustee's name is appearing on the envelope. So you're not pulling the whole property record.
So if you know, Johanna has the survey. If you know situations like that, we can send them this survey, and when we receive them back, we actually check all the addresses and names again to make sure we count people that live in the area.
But are you only going to count one per address?
But the situation you're talking about, you're saying there are two households in an address, right?
Well, I'm saying there's more than, that could be too. We have a situation like that. Well, it could be just a couple, a married couple, and they both want the opportunity to vote.
And I know at the corner, we also have an ADU in the back. We have
Yeah.
multi-generational families. So,
Yeah.
so I don't know, I know that you gave me strict instructions. You want it to be a very authentic survey with just the people in the neighborhood. Would a compromise be to list the names of on the survey that was sent out when they fill it out, to list, so then both names could be counted for that same information? Or if someone wanted to draft a second copy of it, make a copy and then include that when they return it back, that seems only fair. Like, especially with, I know my neighbor across the street, Chrissy, she rents out her back room. So people one person may love it and one person may not like it. So would that be a good solution to that, and still keep the?
Yeah, that would be good, because we don't have information about if someone is renting out a room to someone else. It is just based on all address and owner names that we have. Sometimes the owners are in different places, for example, in different state. We send it to both owner and occupant, but those are just only information we have. But if you know someone who they're in this scenario and case, just you have the Word file so they can send it to me.
Okay, thank you. Now, I know Jerry and Regina also live on Crumpton, so if they wanted to talk about this as well, I know we talked about it several months ago. I want to make sure everybody's heard.
Well, I'll go since Regina also maybe has something to say. I think Cropton is important, not just because it's just a little street for sure, or both ends of it. But this particular part of Cropton is a real popular cut through for people going from Alameda. They cut down this street and go back all the way down to Jefferson. So I'm in favor of keeping a slow street of some form, whether it's the sawhorses or signage or anything that'll keep the traffic slower on the street. It's a racetrack. Commute times, the cars fly down the hill going from Alameda down, cutting through here down to Jefferson. And since the slow street went in, I see many more people walking up and down the sidewalks. They're not out in the street. If that was your intent, it's not working. But a lot more people walking babies and walking dogs and just walking down the sidewalks and enjoying the more quiet streets that we've never had before.
Yeah, one of the problems we had when we launched the program are the barricades that are being moved by people or wind. One of the things we are doing, we are purchasing these heavier barricades. So people cannot move them. They're very heavy and they're larger. They're more visible to drivers. So that's one solution for the barricades. But it happens if the residents of Compton area want to keep it. We will replace the barricades with the heavier ones.
Yeah, the barricades are, during the windy days, they were falling down, and one of our neighbors up the street would constantly stand them back up again. I don't know if the solution is different barricades or some other sort of signage there, but I like the idea of having something on each end of the block.
Okay, and then could we briefly, I know we're going over on time, we're going way over on time, so I appreciate you staying. Can you briefly touch on the roundabout on Dover? It was supposed to be temporary, and it's been there for several years. I know many neighbors have been patient. They said they would hold on and let's see how it works, but it's another thing in our neighborhood, like the road diet, it hasn't, no one's gotten back to it. And it really doesn't serve a purpose. And now it's just one more obstacle to get home. I haven't heard anyone that says, wow, that roundabout on Dover is a lifesaver. I've never heard that. Most people are saying it's time to let it go. So what's the process for removing that?
I was actually, so that was done before I joined the city. I actually asked around about the history, and I believe the process, when I talked to Jessica, she said, let's see let's ask them what's the main concern, and then we will do video camera recording to see how it performs, and we will collect data to see if it performs well or not, and then we will remove it or keep it based on that. What I heard is because that location was not eligible for traffic calming because of the average speed was less than the threshold. City, but because the residents asked for some solutions, their city did a very low cost treatment there. There is no plan to make it a permanent or look it better. So at this point, the next step is if you want city to move forward with removing it or evaluating it, we will do evaluation. Through camera recording.
Can I add something, if I might? That roundabout on Dover really has to go. The only reason it was put in was, and this is years ago, was because of a petition initiated by one person on that block right near the roundabout, who insisted on having her kids play ball in the street. And those kids are long gone and grown up, and nobody plays in the street anymore. There's no reason to have that thing there anymore.
Okay.
I just have to say, with the limited resources we have, and we've heard over and over how every department in the city is running short on money, it would be a travesty if the city spent $5 to evaluate that roundabout. There's no reason that we need video recordings. We can get every neighbor in that neighborhood to sign off right now. We were all strong-armed by one neighbor to sign this petition, and not all of us were even asked to sign it. So for the response to be, let's evaluate data, there's no data to be had. It's not working. We don't want it. We've been patient. It's been several years, and it's time to go.
Amen.
So, okay, I got a little fired up, but we will definitely work on the next steps, because this is what's causing friction in the neighborhood. Like, all of these things are happening in one small area. So I know we have some other things to get onto. I appreciate you coming tonight. I hope I've gotten to everyone's questions on this particular issue. We're going to make sure we fill out the survey on safe streets. We're going to make sure we do the Redwood City Walk, Bike, Thrive survey. We're going to go ahead. I have a couple things I need to touch base on. So I hope you can stay with me for another 10 minutes, but thank you so much for coming tonight. I appreciate your time and your willingness to stay way over than your agreed upon time. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for letting me talk to you.
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to go briefly on a couple of things, and they're important. So I want to give you an update. So as some of you may know, we were very successful on our property tax sewer proposal when we were so successful. And I was concerned that maybe the city council wasn't going to listen. So I had 3 people lined up, and we just read the 300 names into the record. We didn't say, we just said we oppose this, and then each person read their 2 minutes of time of the names of the residents who signed the petition. And we got a unanimous vote. And they said they were going to put it off. Now, what that tells me, that's like a punt, like, okay, when are they going to bring it back? Probably not. But this was all because of our work. When we found out the night before, right, we had our meeting on a Friday, we saw it on the consent calendar, and we voted and we said, this isn't right. And so it actually worked out. So that was a big win for us. Governor Newsom today expanded the drought. So it's like majority of the state, I think it's like 52 areas, and we're in the extremely high drought rate. So we really have to be mindful of what's going on with these illegal fireworks, and we have to be, you know, mindful of water usage. And we're in a tough position, especially our neighborhood being so susceptible, being so close to the parks and up by 280. So that's an issue that we need to address. The fireworks issue, I have a letter I want to read from the police department. I've been here. I actually now make a point to come here because it gets so crazy at home. My dog digs through the sheetrock of the wall. So let me open my, I mean, it's just, but I've been hearing from everyone that it's just been, you know, worse than ever. Let me see. Oh, I may have to open it on my phone. So that was, I'm going to pull it up now. That was a serious issue this year. Maybe someone could share what it was, what you felt like it was like in Farm Hill. Was it better? Was it worse? I wasn't there. I'm just getting reports of it. What are your thoughts? How did that work? I'm going to pull up the email right now from the police department. Does anyone want to share? No? Okay. Sorry about this. I thought I had it, been able to get it up sooner. Sharon, do you want to make your announcements about the upcoming workshops while I'm looking for this? I apologize.
Sure, yeah, it's no problem. Exciting news. We have our summer activities are coming back next week. These are our first major city activities since the start of the pandemic. So it's been almost a year and a half. On July 14th, we have Stafford Park at 6 p.m. It'll be music in the park. July 15th, we're starting Movies on the Square, and this is at the courthouse every Thursday. 6 p.m. we'll have Toy Story 4. 8:30 p.m. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and this is July 15th. Music on the Square is going to begin every Friday for the next 8 weeks. On July 16th, it'll be Tainted Love at the Courthouse Square at 6 p.m. And we'll have salsa, pop, rock, and more throughout this series. July 17th at Red Morton Park at 11 a.m. we'll have Pub in the Park. And then we'll also have Art on the Square on July 23rd. And this will feature a variety of art mediums, including jewelry, photography, glass, fiber art, ceramics, painting, and a drawing for $25 certificate. And then some workshops that we have coming up. In an effort to address displacement, the city has begun working with diverse stakeholders to create a citywide anti-displacement strategic plan. The plan is just beginning to take form, and the city is currently seeking community input. The city has held focus groups with tenants and landlords in June, and it's hosting more tenant and landlord community meetings in July. Our landlord workshops will be, we'll have two parts. The city's hosting a landlord and property managers virtual conversation series to review the rental housing policies that are currently in place and discuss possible changes. Landlords and property managers can register for the event online, and I'll share the link in the chat. The first part will be July 13th from 10 to 11:30 a.m. The second part will be July 20th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And for tenant workshops, we're hosting 2 meetings with tenants to discuss tenant protection policies and housing preservation strategies. Our tenant protections workshop will be July 29th from 6 to 8, and housing preservation workshop August 5th from 6 to 8. And the meetings will be a hybrid format, so you can join through Zoom or in person. We're still working out specific details of the in-person portion, but all the information will be available online. Again, I'll share the link in the chat. And then as for the eviction moratorium that was signed on June 28th, Governor Gavin Newsom signed AB 832, which made changes to the COVID rent relief program and eviction moratorium. It extended the eviction moratorium through September 30th of this year. So renters who declare a financial hardship related to COVID and can pay at least 25% of the rent owed between September 1st of last year through September 30th of this year are protected for eviction until September 30th, 2021. This also increases the reimbursement to 100%. It used to be 80%. And this is for past due rent and future rent for both tenants and landlords. And this includes utilities. Landlords who participate can get reimbursed for 100% of an eligible renter's unpaid rent dating all the way back to April 1st, 2020. If a landlord does not participate in the program, income eligible renters can receive rental assistance for 100% of unpaid rent dating back to April 1st, 2020. Folks who can apply would be renters who have experienced a financial hardship due to COVID and have a household income that is not more than 80% of the area median income, and landlords who have income eligible renters experiencing a financial hardship due to COVID with past due rent. And to apply, you're going to visit housingiskey.com. There's also a phone number, and so I'll put all that information in the chat as well. If anyone has any questions for me, I can try and answer them at this
That's
time.
such valuable information. That's so fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that we're trying to avoid displacing any more families and people. Did I hear someone had a question? I'm sorry. No, thank you so much, Sharon. That was good news. It's nice to share good news that can help folks. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and read my letter. I found it from the police department. So some of you may have seen on Nextdoor, I put up a poll. I know the police department took a different effort over the years with fireworks. We've tried just about everything. We've done prevention campaigns, safety campaigns, social media campaigns. One year I even went to Key Market and was putting flyers in grocery bags to let people know that we have this new ordinance and things have happened, but nothing seems to have been successful. So I ran a poll asking residents how they felt. As of earlier this afternoon, we had 688 replies. 88% of residents felt that it was not effective this year. 12% felt it was. And the response I got back from our community police officer, Eric Otterson, who I have to say is one of the best we have on the force. His response was, the night of the 4th, the city staffed a joint response team with the Redwood City Police Department, San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, and the Redwood City Fire Department, which included more than 25 additional deputies, officers, fire marshals, and support staff on duty to respond to fireworks incidents around Redwood City and unincorporated areas of Fair Oaks. The city had 3 primary goals on the 4th. 1, to prevent or reduce firework-related injuries. 2, to prevent or reduce fireworks-related fires or property damage. And 3, to limit the size or duration of the larger gatherings of individuals setting off fireworks. These gatherings are more dangerous and disruptive incidents, representing the greatest threat to public safety. We were successful in achieving these goals and can report that there was no reported fireworks related injuries or fires on the 4th. And we were successful in preventing or limiting some of the larger gatherings around the city that have occurred in years past. Overall, there was a 28% reduction in reported fireworks incidents compared to 2020. Additionally, our ability to actually dispatch an officer to fireworks reports improved to 79% of all reports as compared to 59% last year. While this is good progress, the city recognizes that there is still work to be done to address the community concerns regarding illegal fireworks use. In the coming days and weeks, we'll analyze our response, consult with public safety partners, and critique our efforts with the goal of building on this year's positive trends. We should have more information available to share by the end of the week. And so he sent that to me earlier this week. And I know Eric's doing what he can, but we've got, I'm sorry, I'm outside, there's bugs everywhere. we've got to try something different. And I think it's going to involve all of us to be part of the solution. Because we just can't go on this way, especially in our neighborhood because of the fire risk. And Keith, I want to say I love your background. Thank you for changing your background. I think that's great. I don't know, was there anything else on the agenda? Redistricting happened. Or the redistricting process happened. The city council appointed someone for our district. Unfortunately, they chose someone who's been banned from our group. So that's not going to work out, but we can do our best to, I don't know how that happened, but we can do our best to participate in whatever opportunities we have. And I'll be posting those on our website and getting that information out, because these maps will last for 10 years and they will have an impact on how our city is run. So it'll be very important to stay tuned on that end. Have I missed anything? I know I've kept you 15 minutes longer. My taskmaster is not here to keep me on time. Have I missed anything? Is there anything anybody wants to share? I know we have open forum. Anybody? All right. Well, thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for being here tonight. Look forward. We'll put this video on YouTube tomorrow, and I will be sending out all the links and everything tomorrow via our neighborhood news blog. So thank you all so much. And we will see you in September.
Great job.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye.
Thank you, Johanna.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night.